from TRIDOS.DESIGN, and we're super proud to announce that the TDC 2.0 is finally coming to the VSR10 platform, starting with the Action Army chamber, and later on we'll also add it to the Tokyo Marui stock chambers. I'm also the creator and the designer of the TDC 2.0, so I want to spend some time and dive into some of the details on how things are designed in this system and what makes it so unique, and why I think it's probably the best option on the market right now. So yeah, let's just jump into it and I'll show you around. So the first thing you'll notice is that the TDC itself is super low profile. This means that even with the largest scope you can mount with the lowest rings possible, as long as there's 5mm of distance between the outer barrel and the scope, you're good to go. This just means much more flexibility, as basically it will fit on any setup. The second thing is that the screw itself is knurled on the sides. That is what allows the housing to create a click sound when turned. And on top of that, that means that the screw is super grippy, so even if you're wearing gloves and it's tricky to access it, it's super easy to grip it and turn it back and forth. But in the meantime, even if you hit it accidentally, it's not gonna move by itself. Another thing you probably noticed already at this point is that the hop-up unit and the screw itself clicks. This is a really cool feature that's mostly unique to just the TDC 2.0 for now. But if you're after a completely smooth hop-up wheel, you can just easily remove this screw right here. It's a grub screw. Just take it out, remove the spring and the plunger mechanism, put the screw back in, and you're good to go. So that will transform this TDC in a completely smooth one. You just have the option to choose between the smooth and the clicky one. But Mike, isn't the whole point of getting the TDC is getting rid of the clicks? Well, yes and no. So let me quickly explain. So for example, on the SG10, the whole vertical distance of travel needed from turned off hop-up to fully engaged hop-up is 1.2mm. So at 1.2mm, you're already over hopping 0.48, and at 0, you're not hopping anything. So when you divide this distance by 20 clicks, which is the standard hop-up adjuster, this means that you get 60 microns of adjustment per click. And as we clearly know, this is not enough. But on the TDC, for example, we're using an M3 thread for which the pitch is 0.5mm. So this means for a full circle of the thumb screw, you're adjusting 0.5mm of vertical distance. And in this case, on the thumb screw, we have 57 grooves. So that means for each click, let's quickly do the math. We've got 0.50mm divided by 57 clicks. This means that for each click, we're actually adjusting the hop-up by 8.7 microns. So if we divide 60 by 8.7 microns, this means that we have 6.9 times more resolution compared to the stock hop-up adjuster. And there's a certain point where the clicks actually start making sense. For example, on the scope, you wouldn't want to have a smooth wheel because then you would have no feedback and you would not know how much you're turning the wheel. Obviously, you could have some indications, but it's not as good as having like very nice distinctive clicks where you know that each click adjusts the hop-up by that much distance. So in case of a hop-up, it becomes handy to know how many clicks you need to, let's say, overhop a BB, and then how many clicks you have to dial it back to have it, again, completely straight. So this just opens up new possibilities that you can use on the field while you're playing. So for example, you normally set the hop-up at a trajectory where the BB is flying completely flat, but you know that there's a guy who needs to slightly overhop the gun, and for that, you know that you can quickly turn the screw, let's say 3 or 4 clicks, shoot him, and just dial it back down. So this makes it super easy to adjust the wheel on the fly with much more precision compared to the stock hop-up, where getting one click to go over is super tricky. Another thing that's super unique to this TDC is that it requires no epoxy gluing. So most other TDCs rely that the thread is glued on the outside of the barrel, and that is what allows the screw to push against and push on the nub. In our case, we wanted to do that completely internally, so there is no epoxy gluing needed. And for example, this outer housing that creates the clicks actually plays no structural role in the TDC. Oh, and this also means that this is probably one of the few TDCs that actually you can use it without a thumb screw, and just use a grub screw that's almost completely invisible. So you would just have a small hole and a grub screw, and that's it. So I'll quickly open up the gun and show you what's inside. Another great thing for this TDC is that since you're not doing any epoxy gluing whatsoever, this means that the installation can be almost fully reversed, and I'll show you. So this is the hop-up unit, and if you twist it back and forth, you can actually remove it. So this is a 3M adhesive that we chose. It sticks very well, but if needed, you can quickly remove it and basically return the gun to a fully stock state. So just clean off some of the adhesive, and yeah, basically you're left just with the hole. So in case you want to reverse it or try out a different TDC, it's fully doable. So here we have it. This is the TDC 2.0 installed in the Action Army raid chamber. On the side, as we can see, we're running an X-range bucking. Just to quickly go over it, so this TDC will work with any bucking combination you throw at it. It will work perfectly fine. So let's quickly take this apart and I'll show you how it works. So yeah, this is the insert, and this is how it's basically sitting inside. So you're probably wondering, how the hell does this loose nut right here creates some of the pressure required for the TDC? And yeah, so to basically quickly go over it, I have printed a diagram here, right here. So this is basically a cross section of the whole TDC. So the red part is the Action Army chamber. This top part right here is the ailer barrel, and then the nub is here, and the nut, which is silver on this part, is here. It's a bit tricky to see, but you should get the picture of how it works. So basic idea is this. So when you initially get the TDC, this part right here, so this hole on the black part on the insert here, is actually not threaded. So it's just a hole that's slightly smaller than the M3 thread. So for the first time when you screw in the screw, it first grabs the threads on the nut that are formed already. So this is the M3 nut. So once it grabs the threads and goes on through to meet the plastic part actually is undersized, so the threads are not there yet. So the screw is actually having some resistance, and this resistance allows the nut to push up against the inside of the outer barrel. What happens next is the nut is actually sitting against there and allows the screw to be pushing down more to a point where it's actually penetrating the plastic part of the hole. So this is important, and that's a key part of why we make this part out of plastic. And this is the same concept as nylock nuts, which prevent the screw from turning by itself. So since the thread is undersized, the screw basically has to force itself through the part, and therefore there's quite a bit of friction between the screw and the insert, and this causes the screw not turn by itself. And on top of that, when the initial penetration for the plastic insert is happening, the screw is actually pushing down the insert all the way down, so it sits flush against the inside of the hop-up chamber. So this means that the insert always will be completely flat to the bottom, and the nut will always sit flat against the inside of the barrel. And this whole combination here makes sure that the thumb screw is not turning by itself. It's super strong, so you can't strip it. And then the cavity for the nub makes sure that the nub always goes in completely vertically, and there's no twisting and no skewing around. And all these parts right here, the thumb screw, the nut, the nubs, the insert, they're all CNC machines, so they all fit together very nicely, very tightly. There's no free movement whatsoever. And that is the whole package which creates and how the TDC functions. And this is what makes it so unique. It does everything so well. And hopefully now you see that the screw that you install in the front, which only holds the insert at one point, it's only there to just make sure that the insert doesn't fall out when you're doing some maintenance stuff. It's just there to hold everything in place. And yeah, it's basically a convenience thing. And same goes for the Pro housing, which creates the click. As you can see, there's gap made for it. The housing just glues onto the surface of the outer barrel and just basically provides the plunger that's hitting the thumb screw on the side, and that's what's creating the click. But again, the housing that sits on the outside has no functional use other than just creating feedback for the clicks. and also just protecting the thumb screw from accidentally hitting it on one side and just bending it over. So now that we've taken a quick look on how the TDC works, we can actually switch over and I'll show you the selection of the nubs that come with the kit. So first of all the nubs are designed to fit the Action Army chamber perfectly. So if we take, for example, the black one and position it inside the chamber, you'll notice that we're basically using all the surface area we can use out of the hole that's made on the Action Army nub right here. That being said, I really want to highlight two things that comes to my mind when talking about any of these nubs. Number one, there's no clear winner here. All of the nubs are created with different theories in mind, but in practice, it's really hard to tell any difference between them, but I really want to give the option to you guys to just test each of them out. The more people have different types of nubs, the faster we can learn and have the data to know that, okay, this nub performs best in this setup, that nub performs in the other setup. So please don't come to us asking for which nub to use in which case. Do your own research, do your own testing. Any of these nubs will work perfectly. It comes down to your personal theories. What do you think works the best? I'll just go over each of the nubs and explain you what is their purpose, how we designed it, and what's the intended use for it. So let's start with these three, as the red one is slightly different, so we'll put that aside for now. So starting from the black one, which is the simplest one, the theory behind this one is very simple. Create the maximum surface area possible with the hole on the Action Army chamber. It perfectly contacts the surface of the nub, so it matches the curvature of the nub. As you can see here, it's slightly concave, and this is a super popular option. We also use this kind of style on the other TDCs for the SG24 and SG10 stock chambers. Works great with any setup, either it's a regular bucking, either R-hop, any setup will work, and this just basically creates maximum pressure. So next up is the gray one. The overall shape is basically the same as the black one, but the main difference is that it has a channel cut out in the middle of it. And the theory behind this one is that the pressure is distributed more to the sides of the bucking than on the center. Again, just a theory. We give you the option. You want to test it out, do it. Again, we personally tested this. Works great, just as great as the black one. If there's any changes, it's very minor, but at least you have the option. If we wouldn't give you the option, then yeah, we would feel like we're limiting the options for you guys. So this is the second nub. And the third one, the silver one, it's made on a similar concept as the black one. It's also concave and matches the shape of the bucking, but the difference here is that it's slightly rounded on the starting point and the end point of the nub, where the BB enters and then exits. So the idea here is that the pressure is getting applied more gradually as the BB enters and exits, meaning in a more gradual manner, it's more stable and so on. It's something that we've done on the TDC 2.0 for other versions. Again, works great. There's no clear winner between these three. Any one of these will work just fine. But in case you don't really like our options, for whatever reason, we also include the red nub, which is the one right here. And what this allows you to do is use any of the already on the market available nubs, such as, for example, the stock Action Army nub that comes with the chamber. So if you like that nub, you have the option now to use it on the TDC, slots in the groove right like so, slides into the chamber, and you're off to the races. Same goes for, let's say, the Panthera nub, which is also a very popular option. So basically we created this nub to allow you to use any soft nub on the market. But yeah, basically you just have the option to choose between different options. So for example, here is the Maple Leaf Omega nub, which again works great with this setup right here. But again, different theories, different ideas. Everyone has their own theory, which works the best. We just offer you the options. So you can experiment with different nubs and basically come to your own conclusions. One last thing before we wrap this up. So we wanted to make sure that this TDC is accessible to anyone, even a kid who barely knows how to do any teching. He could do it by himself. So all you need is actually just a drill. Just a handheld drill is totally fine. I've drilled all my barrels perfectly with the first try using these drill jigs. So yeah, we just really wanted to make sure that this product is accessible to anyone, even those who are not really into teching. So that's why we created a drill jig that's perfectly made for the barrel. It will fit perfectly any size barrels. On top of that, we created this small shelf right here to make it easier for you to remove the original pin that comes in Action Army chamber. And that works like this. You have like a small shelf where you can put it on. Now you can hammer the pin out very easily. High quality instructions available on our website that walk you through step by step each part of the process, how to drill it correctly, how to install all the parts correctly. It basically has everything you need. So thanks for tuning in. We really do hope you enjoyed this TDC, and I really do believe that's probably one of the most complete packages you can get right now. It's super easy to install, super customizable, it has clicks, it has smooth motion, it's fully reversible. I think it's a perfect combination. So if you're interested, you can go and check it out at TRIDOS.DESIGN. I'll have it linked below. I'm super stoked. I'm sure I missed some of the parts. I tried to cover most of what came to my mind. If you have any questions, just leave them down below. So that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for tuning in. Hope it was worthwhile and you learned something. Consider subscribing if you like our content. We're planning to do much more in the future, myth busting and other things beyond that. See you guys in the next time.